Welcome back. California Congressman Darrell Issa is demanding the White House and big tech companies preserve any records pertaining to the suppression of Hunter Biden's laptop stories. This is so Republicans can launch an investigation if they do win back the majority in Congress in the midterm elections. And joining us now with the latest on this is congressional correspondent Kilmeny Ducart. Hey, Kilmeny.
Hi, John. That's right. Congressman Issa sent a letter to White House officials and also the CEOs of Twitter and Facebook demanding the preservation of documents related to media reporting around Hunter Biden's laptop. Hunter Biden's laptop in 2019 was sent to a Delaware repair shop where it was subsequently handed over to the FBI by the store's owner. The New York Times last week confirmed its authenticity after it originally dismissed the New York Post story as unsubstantiated. Social media platforms at the time removed the Post story and content related to it. But in a statement, Congressman Issa said the scandal amounts to the level of Watergate, saying it is not acceptable for tech companies to claim their political censorship was a mistake, not acceptable for the mainstream media to authenticate what it termed disinformation and help to shield from public view, and not acceptable for both to collude with Democrat partisans and work to impact an election. It's time for the truth to be told. Well, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy has big plans to summon big tech CEOs and break up some of these monopolies like Google, who control these search engines with their algorithms. But there is also legislation, John, in the pipeline that would give rights to people who are victims of this censorship. But it's important to note that the House GOP is mobilizing all of this now. So if it does regain a majority in November, it can hit the ground running.
Kilmeny Ducart. Well, before we let you go, Kilmeny, one question for you. We're hearing that Senator Manchin from West Virginia is going to vote yes on Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. It seems like she'll have the vote she needs.
You know, it's really interesting because it almost at first at her announcement, John, seemed like a foregone conclusion. But given the Republican questioning, the Democrats were confident about the votes that they had, but they were unclear whether they were going to get the handful of Republicans that they want. It is possible, but you never know. And certainly with Manchin signaling support, the odds are very good for her.
Yeah, Mitch McConnell saying he's going to vote no, but Joe Manchin saying yes. And of course, Democrats, they have the majority with the tie-breaking vote of the vice president. Great to see you, Kilmeny Ducart. Thanks so much. All right, joining us now is the GOP national spokesperson and director of Black Media Affairs at the Republican Party, Paris Dennard. Paris, great to have you with us.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
All right, so Darrell Issa telling the White House and big tech to preserve those Hunter Biden-related records. Is this priority number one if the Republicans do take back control of Congress?
I don't know if it's priority number one, but it's certainly a priority for Republicans to make sure that we hold big tech accountable. And I'm glad that Darrell Issa is signaling that. I think that the number one priority for the Republicans is making sure that the American people have policies that are going to uplift, empower, and make sure that they are back on their feet in a way that they don't have these horrible far left radical policies that are hurting so many Americans that are being experienced on a regular basis because of the lack of leadership coming from the Democrats who control the White House, the House, and the Senate. So I believe the Republicans, when we take control back in November, we're going to be focused on putting the American people first and making sure that the policies are going to be that are empowering the American people and be a roadblock to the dangerous and deadly policies that we see coming from the Biden-Harris administration.
And obviously the diplomacy efforts and where we are today, Paris, and a lot of people say what's on that laptop needs to come out because it could show some issues of, the president could be compromised. I mean, we're now looking at Ukraine, we're looking at China, and there are things that need to come out, and Americans, not only just the policy, want to know the truth about our leaders.
The American people are fed up with the lies that are coming out of the Biden-Harris White House, and actually the lies that came from the Clinton campaign. President Trump was right in the things that he said that were happening on the campaign that were just beyond the pale of what should happen in American politics and in government. And so they need to be held accountable for their actions. The things that are on the Hunter Biden laptop have been verified by the New York Times to be true, and they need to be held accountable for those actions. And the American people demand accountability. They're not getting that from the Democrats right now. They certainly are not going to get it from Biden on his own. And so Republicans are going to hold him accountable because that's what we need to do to get to the truth about what happened to hold Joe Biden accountable, because he may be compromised. And if he is, we need to hold him accountable for that. The American people deserve to know the truth.
Well, they already tried to blame Hunter Biden's laptop on Russian disinformation and Vladimir Putin effectively. They're trying to do the same thing with gas prices. And we see, you know, this, I know, Paris, you guys are seeing this in the polls that you're looking at. Joe Biden can blame it on Vladimir Putin all he wants, but he's the one taking the heat from this, from the American public. And we see kind of the, you know, way people feel about it. Let's go to Chicago, where we saw a traffic jam, dozens of gas stations down there. There was a guy named Willie Wilson picking up at the tab $1 million worth of gas for folks. We see how bad this is hurting people. They're talking about, you know, stimulus checks now to pay for gas. Joe Biden's gas problems. This is going to be worse than what Jimmy Carter faced, Paris.
Well, the Biden gas hike is real. It's impacting everyday Americans on a daily basis. When voters go to the gas stations, the Republican National Committee is going to be there. We're already there in California. We're there in Arizona. We're in New Berlin today. We're going to be in a whole host of states moving forward, because we want to register those voters, those disenfranchised voters who are going to the gas pump and saying, it is unfair, it is un-American that I have to choose between gasoline and food on the table for my children. It is absurd of what's going on. It is far worse than what Jimmy Carter had to experience, and Jimmy Carter was a horrible president, and Joe Biden is on track to be even worse than Jimmy Carter, if not, and he already is. And so the American people are at a place right now where these gas prices are so bad that in Southern California, Americans are going to Mexico
I saw
and
that.
filling up their gas tanks in Tijuana because of the high gas prices that Joe Biden has created, and continues to lie and try to make the American people think that it just happened because of Putin's invasion of Ukraine. It's not true. Gas prices have been going up since the day he came into office, when he killed the Keystone Pipeline and put in priorities of dismantling the American energy sector. Instead of talking to Venezuela and Iran, he should be talking to governors in states like Texas and North Dakota and New Mexico and Pennsylvania about how they can get become energy independent once again. But he doesn't want to do that, because they're more focused on getting money to Tesla and electric cars than making sure we have energy independence at home.
Well, they kind of hit on Tesla. They're not part of this, but they talk about getting this money to the other manufacturers. But I wonder how long before the coyotes start sending gasoline with the drugs north of the border.
I mean, it's $2 less there in Tijuana. So if you live in San Diego, it makes sense. I don't blame people from going over there and doing that. But it's so sad for our country that Mexico is using it to their advantage to take our dollars and bring them there.
Yeah. Well, Paris, great to see you. Take care.
Thanks for having me.
And what a interesting idea, too. Registering people at gas pumps, of course, they are not happy.
No.
A lot of those gas stations have those Joe Biden stickers on it, too.